The latest enforcement update has been hit and miss with a lot of players. Some players are seeing it as a good update and some are, well, not so much. I want to talk today about the update. I want to talk about some of the good points, some of the bad points, and maybe discuss what can be done in the next update to quote unquote improve the game. Obviously, the big change in the game over the update was the health being changed from 100 to 150. The weapons haven't been buffed up to match that new health. What's actually happened has been a lot of nerfing and a lot of increase in time to kill. Not a huge amount, but it is a noticeable amount. A lot of the players are in the Discord, have been in the Discord over the last few days, sharing builds, sharing loadouts of what is now working with the new health system. I have dabbled a little bit with some of the red guns, and I don't feel like there's a huge difference in terms of time to kill. It is a little bit noticeable, but it's not a deal breaker. It's still definitely playable. On the slightly bigger maps, it's sort of less noticeable. I find that on maps like Pool, you do notice that extra bullet or two to kill people, because obviously it's so close quarters and so fast paced. You're sort of used to dropping people in a certain amount of time, and obviously that is now taking an extra bullet or two. There's been a lot of weapon builds showed in the Discord. And by the way, if you're struggling with your weapon builds on Enforcement, join the Enforcement Discord. There's a page in there with loads of different weapon builds and people sharing ideas. So that's definitely a good place to start if you're stuck on how to build your loadout. But yes, like I said, there's been a lot of people discussing weapon builds and stuff to keep up with the new health, like the new amount of health that's in the game. Again, I don't feel like I've noticed a big change, but again, I do a lot of sniping, so it is a bit different for me. And on that subject, the other big discussion that's been going on has been basically snipers versus red guns. Are snipers overpowered? I mean, you could argue that I'm biased on this because obviously I do a lot of sniping on Enforcement. And I mean, I could sit here for 5 hours and discuss whether I think snipers are overpowered or not. I mean, it's been done in the Discord many times. A brief overview of what I would say is a sniper should be usable in the hands of someone experienced with it, but should be a bit more difficult for newer players to pick up. For that reason, in Enforcement, since the update and since there's been a lot of nerfing going on with the snipers, I would say they are quite well balanced at the minute. Because of the style of shooter that Enforcement is, where it's that sort of more fast-paced arena style shooter, where it's sort of smaller maps, faster-paced action, I think you need the snipers to be able to one-hit kill to the body. I don't think one-shot to the head only snipers is the way forward. It works on games like Battlefield, where you've got larger scale maps, but I think in a small, fast-paced game, you have to have some snipers at one hit to the body. And then the way to combat the overpoweredness of the snipers is to introduce movement penalties, slower movement speed, maybe slightly slower rate of fire, which, to be fair, at the minute, I feel like Enforcement has done pretty well. I feel like the time between bolts, so the rate of fire of the weapons, isn't too fast. I feel like the movement speed, you definitely notice that the guns move a lot slower than if you're carrying an SMG or an assault rifle. So I think that they've got that pretty spot on. In terms of damage, I can understand that one hit in a limb is probably a bit overpowered. So maybe they should nerf. So especially with the intervention, that should be nerfed. So its torso and head is one hit kill. Having said that, they've also nerfed on the snipers the damage range, which is quite a good nerf. It's quite a good idea. However, because it's a small map arena style shooter, the damage range doesn't make too much difference for the snipers. You sort of have to be in specific spots on specific maps to notice it. So I don't feel like the damage range has actually changed the behavior of the snipers at all. I mean, at least I haven't really noticed much in terms of hit markers, and I know a couple of my friends haven't. That part of the nerf is kind of redundant in my opinion, just because the maps are quite small. The other big sniping nerf has obviously been the HCS, or the Barrett. Has obviously now been demoted to 2-hit kill and 1-hit headshot, which puts it in the category of marksman rifles, which I don't think is right, because the Barrett is obviously a large, heavy hitting sniper, and I feel like the fire rate had already been nerfed on it. The movement speed penalties on it is humongous, so then taking 1-hit kill torso abilities from it, it's too much. The speed between shots of the Barrett is not really any different than the Orm or the Intervention. I would argue that it's actually slower rate of fire than the Orm, which is a bolt action, which obviously doesn't make much sense because the Barrett is semi-automatic, but I'm happy to sort of let that go and carry on playing with it. But then they've because they've nerfed the damage of it, it just doesn't make sense to use, because you'd use an SVD or, you know, like one of the other actual DMRs that's 2-hit kills. So to me, that nerf is kind of pointless. You may as well either get rid of the gun out the game or bring it back to 1-hit kill to the torso or the head. Anyway, so that's my sniper rant. As far as red guns go, again, like I said, I feel like the red guns, there hasn't been too much difference. I mean, I don't use red guns all that much. I've noticed a little bit of difference on, say, maps like Pool, but on the bigger, sort of slightly bigger maps, it isn't as noticeable, and the game is still really playable. Some of you may argue that I'm wrong there. I mean, obviously, if you disagree, then put it in the comments and let me know what you think should be done in the next update about it. As far as the next update is concerned, I feel like I would like to see more of a game balancing update. And I don't necessarily mean game balancing as in weapon balancing. Maybe a game refresh is more accurate as to what I want. I would happily take an update where we don't actually get any new content. And that sounds bizarre, but what I would like to see, personally myself, I would like to see an overhaul of the game in terms of adding more settings and polishing up what is already on the game and making some balance changes. So again, obviously I've already breezed over the HCS/Barrett, making that a 1-hit kill again, just because I don't feel like it was overpowered because of the previous nerfs of the rate of fire and the movement penalties that you get with it. I feel like that gun was balanced. I would like to see extra settings, so things like the dominating icon out of the kill feed. I know this is a big one for a lot of the snipers who are trying to hit kill feeds and stuff. I feel like that should be a setting that you can turn on and off, so you can just have the kill indicators in the kill feed as opposed to the extra information. A setting for that would be nice. I feel like adding keybind changes into the settings would be a massive one for a lot of people. I know there's a lot of people who want to change their keybinds. I am in that group of people. Some of the map changes. So again, one of the items in the update was the pool's lighting update. Has been done well. It does look all right, but I feel like it's gone a little bit the other way now, where it's slightly too dark. I don't know if you agree with me, but again, let me know in the comments if you agree with me on that, because I feel like it was really bright and now all of a sudden the lighting has just been dipped a little bit too low. And then I would also like to see an overhaul of the spawns. What? Yeah, I know it sounds weird me saying that, because a lot of you know that I'm a sniper. I like to hit clips. I like to try and push spawns and push at people and be aggressive, which inevitably ends up with me pushing spawns. But I feel like the spawn system on some of the maps isn't particularly good because it's very predictable, which makes it sounds counterproductive, because I'm essentially trying to make the game harder for myself. I would like to see a bit more of a random spawn pattern. Not overly random. I'm not talking like Modern Warfare where people just spawn in behind you in the middle of the map. Like, still keep it somewhat structured as to where players are. So, you know, if your team is inhabiting one half of the map, you can sort of guess that the other team is inhabiting the other half of the map. So you've still got some structure and you've still got some indication of, you know, you can guess where they're coming from. But maps like Throughway and Hideout, I've found certain spots on them maps where you can literally sit in one area and you can see 2 or 3 of the enemy spawn points. So then it makes it pointless to move. If you sit in the calf on Throughway, you can essentially, within sort of 10 yards of that point, you can see 3 of the enemy spawns. So it's kind of pointless to move anywhere else, because you may as well sit there and you can just look at one spawn, look at the next one, look at the next one. And I feel like that just needs to be altered slightly. So maybe just add a couple of more spawn points in, just so there's a bit more variety in it, so you're not necessarily looking at one place. Obviously, from my perspective, I'm arguing this because it makes it a bit too easy for me to then sit and camp in these places, and I would like to move around a bit more, because again, I'm a sniper, but I'm an aggressive sniper. I like to move and I like to push people, but on Throughway there's no point in doing that, because obviously I can guess where they're coming from very easily. So even just adding 2 or 3 extra spawn places in will just give it that bit more randomization and mean that you have to move about a bit more and you have to guess a bit more and try and work out where they're coming from. And then on the other side of that, you've obviously got the new players that are coming in, and then they've got sweaters like me coming in, sweating, pushing spawns, and sort of ruining their experience of the game. So I feel like that's quite a big one that could be done in the next update. So yeah, overall, I'm fairly happy with the update. It sounds, obviously I've done a lot of complaining, but it's not really complaining. It's more like I just want to discuss points and see where we can go from here. So as I said, in the next update, I would like to see some more just balance changes and more, UI changes, more things that are going to just make the game smoother and a better experience for people. A lot of people want more content, but I feel like it would be a really good idea. Do a bit of an overhaul of the game now, make it a bit more user-friendly. That is going to help keep people playing the game once they discover it, once they try it. Because the more customization you have and the smoother that the game runs, it's just going to be a all-over better experience for all the players involved, whether it's new players or whether it's the players that are currently playing, like your hardcore fan base. I feel like everyone could probably agree that making the base game solid and making it customizable and making it smooth, I feel like is going to benefit everybody involved. So yeah, they're basically my thoughts on the update. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you want to see some more enforcement gameplay, click on the video that's on screen now, and I will see you in the next one.